Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you're new to this channel, or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside the show while it's live, and a link in the info box below the video once it's rendered. But most importantly, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the discussion and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show. Sharing the show increases the live audience, of course, and this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you are new to the channel or you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Ranty. How you doing, Ranty? Good to have you. You're just playing. You're doing this deliberately, aren't you? Because I said don't vanish.
You caught me. You caught me.
Yeah, I just knew it. Within a second, I knew. Literally, the last show I started, the advert went wrong, and then I was like, "Oh, great start," which made it to air because it hadn't muted me. And then I just cut to me, did my intro, and then cut to Arwen and Anthony, and they're both just gone. They just vanished completely. I was like, "Oh, great! Start the show on my own, no advert, wonderful."
Well, with you saying that, I just thought I'd have to try it, but you caught me instantly, so...
No, it's fair try. So, how was TFR?
TFR was good. Yeah, I mean, it's a bit daunting doing it on your own, pretty much. I tried to get you to come in and Anthony, but you were both busy, so I essentially had to go on my own and sort of like hold the show down for an hour and a half, which was really good, actually. I mean... the hosts were fantastic. You know, they let me speak, and I was able to try and describe what we've been doing recently without actually having any visuals to aid me. So it was all new, but it was very good. Seemed to get quite a good response as well from the people in the chat.
That's good. Were they telling you that they had lots and lots of people listening?
Yeah.
How many people?
Yeah. Oh, I can't remember now. A few.
Excellent.
I think they have their show at 3:30 in the morning, though. I think when we did the show, there was like 3,000 people listening, wasn't there?
Something along those lines, yeah. Was this is TF? This is Iron Realm, right?
It is, yeah.
Cool. They're nice
Josh
guys.
Corey,
They make you feel nice and at ease, and they explain everything well in advance of it happening. So
I think Josh Corey from the Iron Realm 3047.
wow, that's good.
It is. It is. And
What did you talk about? What did you tell him?
Oh, well, I told them all about Anthony's observation first, from looking at the Isle of Man, and then, you know, it was when you suggested that maybe we're competing, and I thought about it, and perhaps we are. Perhaps we are competing to try and get the most astonishing flat Earth footage, and maybe that's what inspired me to get down and go as low as I possibly could from where I was viewing, and that's what was able to just break apart the hole, getting beneath the refraction layer, sort of thing. And so just went into a lot of detail about that, what we were able to see. And I mean, I don't know if you saw my oh, you did this morning, didn't you?
Yeah, I tuned in this morning, which is why I knew you wanted me to go on with you, but I was just busy all morning, as is Anthony, which is such a shame. But on the other hand, you know, your glorious footage does stand alone. There's, you know, it's great that you plugged this show and plugged Anthony, but by the same token, your footage is fantastic. You know, like you say, were they receptive to how you conveyed it verbally about going underneath the refraction zone?
Oh yeah, they said I handled it extremely well. It sounded really, you know, it was like a show sort of thing of its own. You could imagine yourself there.
Hey, Numi.
We had a chat afterwards, you see, and that's
Hello,
how they said. Hi, Numi.
How's it going, guys? Are we live?
Yes, we are. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, I did a live stream this morning. I was going to do it last night, but Anthony was too tired, and then this morning Anthony was working and you were busy, so I just thought I'd wing it solo, and I basically showed the sand dunes and the rock that's visible from 1 foot elevation, and I showed you the buildings that's in the town of Barrow. It's just astonishing footage that what was actually able to be seen at that time.
Can you show us now?
Yeah. Now let me find out what I'm going to present. That's that one. Yeah, I can share my screen now. One sec.
I've got you.
Hang on, one sec. I have to
Oh, maybe not.
Get rid of that. Sorry, hang on. My mistake.
All right. Just let me know when you're ready.
Yep, ready to go.
Cool.
Get rid of that. Get rid of that. And right, so yeah, this is from a different position. Let me know when you're seeing this.
Yeah. You're on.
So I'm a little bit further up the coast, and because I'm a little bit further up the coast, these buildings have swapped over in my line of sight. So this steeple sort of thing is on the left of the clock tower as we look at it from further away, because I'm further down the coast, which also would put this rock in the line of sight of this building, and we actually evidence this rock. This is all sand dunes that go along, so this is like the protection for Barrow-in-Furness. So when the tide's coming in, these sand dunes are their kind of seawall in effect. In Blackpool, we have to build the seawalls. In Barrow, they've got their own defences, and this is what they are. It's the sand dunes. So as we go along, come to these buildings here, and what we've got is this sand dune that's very evident. It's a nice shape. You know, it comes along here and then it rises up quite a bit. There's a big hit. Well, it's a fairly substantial sand dune. And what we do, we evidence it in the footage from further away, and it actually lines up in front of this building. I'll show you that now. Which one would it be? This one. So here we are. So all I've done is on this is I've applied some filters on it, so contrast and brightness, and you can actually see that sand dune which is there. There's that sand dune in front of this building. So obvious. And over here, that's the rock that is in the line of sight of this building. It all triangulates astonishingly well, you know, and this rock is evident in all the images, not just a one-off. And there's no denying that this is the sandbank that we're looking at. There's the sand dunes coming along. There's where it rises up.
Just for the benefit of people who may not have seen this, so this is being taken from an elevation of about 1.5 feet, correct? 2 feet?
Yeah, 1.5 feet to under to about a foot, something like that. No more than 1.5 feet.
And this stuff is about 14 miles away. Is that right?
Yeah, 14 miles to this sand dune, and these buildings in the background are 18 miles away. And obviously we've got the land that's appearing, the floaty land, so to speak, which I think it's probably just the sand dunes, and maybe that part is the backside of this mountain, which is 150 feet elevation at about 30 miles, and this is the other part of the sand dunes in the foreground. But that is this sand dune here. It's unmistakable. That is this image here. That is this.
Yeah, for sure.
That is that. And just because I'm further down the coast, it actually puts this sand dune in the line of sight of this building. That's all it does. I can kind of show you. Maybe I can't show you on Google Earth because my Google Earth has been playing up something rotten today.
While you're playing with Google Earth, I'll just explain to the audience. So you've gone further down the shoreline or coast, whatever way you want to phrase it, a bit further down, and then taken the same shots but about 40 feet in elevation. Is that right?
Maybe even higher than that. Maybe 60 feet.
Maybe 60. Well, just higher. So definitely above the refraction band. Okay.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I've got Google up now.
Here's the two places. Place 1 and place 2 and there's the line of sight. So I've got individual lines of sight lined up for each thing. So from the further elevation, this was the one at a foot, and this is the one at like 60 feet in elevation on the seawall. So when I'm looking at it from this position, which is the nice clear image, this one. So when I'm looking at it from these images here were taken from the higher elevation, and you can see all the sand dunes and everything, and you can see the formation of this sandbank here. So yeah, from this position, and yeah, when I'm further away, because I'm looking from further down the coast and more to the left, and the two things that stand out in the footage are the two buildings that are the steeple and the town hall, and they actually just swap over. You know, it's just the parallax issue, and that's all it is. So further away but lower down, and we see the same stuff. And that's on this image here. You can see the sandbank. That is absolutely it. There's the steeple, and there's the steeple, and there's the town hall. They've actually swapped positions, if you see what I mean. You know, from the other image up the coast, it brings this steeple to the right. And this rock.
Is this the clearest image?
Yeah, this is the one that I've just applied the filters on this one.
Okay, so this is the one. Great. So on the left, I won't take your thunder away. Just tell us about the windows on the building on the left.
Oh yeah. Okay. So better in this image, or maybe the other one. It might be better in the other image actually.
Oh, I don't know. Just stick with this one. It's good.
Are you sure?
Yeah. This is adequate.
Well, so here we are looking at this building on the left, which, I mean, Aaron was quite correct in what he said. He said, look at the side of this mountain. It seems to be refracting here. And then you look and you look across here and you do see a refraction going on here. It's like a Fata Morgana. So this building here is repeating itself. So there's 4 windows. It looks like there's 4 windows on this building, but essentially there's only 2. If we look at the image from here, you'll see what I'm saying. There we go. There's got 2 windows on the side, and underneath it, it's got the corrugated iron sort of roofs going across here that are very jaggedy. You can see them in the image too. If I pull out, can you see the jaggedy roofs? This is from a foot, but they've got 4 windows here. And what is happening, and it does go on to show this later on in some later images, is that this is starting to rise up and repeat itself. So there's the real windows. That's the real windows, and that's a reflection of itself, but above it rather than below it. And we also see it on just going across the top here ever so slightly. Let's see if I can bring up some.
Again, while you bring up the next images, so the key detail is that is usually right on the horizon, and usually it's reflecting down, so you get a mirror image of itself reflecting below itself. If you get it at all, if you're lucky enough to get it like in the Isle of Man composite, where it's really clear throughout the whole image, you've got this refraction zone with stuff mirrored underneath itself. But as Anthony showed me in other images, it washes out and eventually it just ends up being, quote, obstruction. Whereas in this instance, it's very, very different. Number one, it's not at the horizon, it's halfway up, what we're actually viewing in the camera. And number two, it's not refracting down or reflecting down in terms of what you actually get presented. It's reflecting upwards. So it's doing very, very strange things. And it's because Ranti's actually underneath the refraction zone that normally blurs all this stuff out or completely obscures it.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't have said that any more eloquently. It's exactly what we're seeing. If you imagine that there's a mirror, let's just say it's a mirror, a two-sided mirror, of around about 2 feet above the water. And if you look from above it, looking down into the mirror, you're going to see it reflected down. And if you're looking underneath, like I am now, and you're looking at the mirror and you're looking up to it, you're going to see it reflected up. So that's essentially what we're doing. What's happening with this refraction zone. It just depends on your angle that you look at it. I'll show you the later images. You've already seen these. I think everyone saw them yesterday, but this is what I was going to show you. This building now, you can clearly see that refraction zone. where the windows were here originally, now you can see that there's a clear refraction going on and lifting it up. And now the original building with the two windows and the corrugated iron down beneath and the roof, actually the roof of it is all visible. And all this is just the remnants of that reflection that was going on, the Fata Morgana. So essentially we're seeing beneath the refraction zone, so we're able to see all the buildings, everything perfectly. You know, I mean, if I could probably crop that out there and superimpose it over this image, and it would all just line up perfectly.
So what you're basically proposing is that you're looking in a layer that almost functions like a mirror, just like the ocean beneath it normally. And for some reason, just in mid-air, there is like a mirroring effect that partially reflects everything that you see underneath it.
Yeah. And also,
It's fascinating. What is causing that? What in the mid-air is causing that?
Well, I would like to point out that, I mean, I was saying this before about the seawall in Blackpool. So the seawall, we have to build the seawall to protect us from being swamped by the incoming tide. But in Barrow, they have natural defences which go around the peninsula of this land. It's all sand dunes and sandbanks. They don't have to build any sea walls. So if we look over here, like the lower part of the lighthouse, we can't see down to the lower part of the lighthouse because the sand dune is in the way. It's the same with these buildings over here. This is a building in the town, and there's a house. So I can't see the bottom of the house because this sand dune is in the way. Yeah. And what we see here with this building, this is a real building. I mean, this is how it actually looks. I mean, I can show it you on Google Earth. I had it picked out before. Where is it? Just let me find it again. I'll have to find it in a minute. I had it marked out before, but my computer keeps crashing for some unknown reason, and Google Earth starts playing up. I think it's here. There we go. Me just put myself on the opposite side of the road here. So we take a look at this building. There we go. So this is the actual building, and you can see there is actually a little part of a building on top of the roof. If I go back a bit further, I might see it actually. Go over here. There we go. So you can see the structure on the roof, and you can see the windows, and you can see that it's like an additional part to the side of this building. And that's evidenced in not only this this image that was taken from the higher elevation with the thing on the roof, but from the 1 foot elevation too. So I'll go back to that, which is this one. This is the 1 foot elevation. There's the building. There's the thing on the roof. There's the building itself. There's the other side of the building, and there's that rock again. You know, I'm going to keep referencing this, but that is the rock that's in this image here. It's this image, but we've moved slightly down the coast, so it's in the foreground now.
Very cool.
So, yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's just we're seeing down to the ground.
Yeah, I don't really see a bulge in between there anywhere.
Oh yeah, I mean that's the other thing. To be fair, I mean, what is it?
The 1 foot height. This.
Yeah, let's just go back to where are we? 30702. There we go. So across this, you know, where's this bulge? You know, this is looking from an elevation of about 1 foot. Where is the bulge on the water? You know, obstructing us. Because this is an 18-mile distance to the clock tower and the steeple. But we're underneath the refraction zone. So we can see the bases all perfectly. These buildings are all perfect.
Now I know what it must be. The whole thing is looming up into that
I
flat plane.
knew it was going to be a looming refraction.
And then fractal. It's like fractalizing, causing like this whole mirror image effect. So it's like fractal looming.
Slightly looming non-standard refraction hyena.
That's the one.
Well, you know what I think, guys? I don't think there is a bulge.
Really?
No, I don't think there is.
That water looks pretty flat to me. Even just panning around, it looks pretty flat.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that there's no bulge there.
Are you sure you want to stake your life on that?
I'd stake my life on it.
This is from the 5-foot elevation, and you can see all the mirroring that's going on. Because we're looking down on this image now, because we're looking down into the refraction zone, it's all being mirrored probably down, I would expect. Looks like it's probably mirroring down. And when you get underneath it, it mirrors up. That's what it looks like to me.
Yeah.
That's what looks like it's happening.
What an incredible backfire.
All right.
Just going to say, a bit of a backfire when Slice Barcane saying, why isn't this from the beach when it's 35 feet, 60 feet, 70 feet observations? And then you get down to the beach, get on your knees, and what do you know? It all comes back.
It's called peeking under the blanket. I think that's what the TFR's called it. Peek under the blanket. And it essentially is that. It's kind of cheating in a way. It's like they say, it's like a hack. It's like a flat earth hack, you know. If you're sneaking underneath everything just to have a little look, you know, and you're kind of cheating.
But it is pioneering on Anthony's part to get down on his belly. You know, I would have never have thought that. Never.
No.
It's practically going underneath the optical slant. So where normally, if you go more high up, there seems to be this displacement causing part of the ocean to basically lift up, or the rest being lifted down, and you're looking underneath it.
Right.
Guess what? It's like looking underneath a blanket, indeed. Looking straight over the mattress.
There'll also be some filthy connotations if it's come from Iron Realm.
Well, don't forget, you shouldn't see any of that church steeple. From this elevation and this distance, you should see none of that, this clock. You should see none of that, let alone see all of it, and the building next to it and all that. You shouldn't see any of it. This should all be hidden. But all we've done is we've bypassed that that layer of refraction, the circle of confusion. And what do you call it, Arwen? What's that layer that you call it?
Optical slant.
The optical slant. So essentially, we're bypassing that. We're sort of like taking that out of the equation. And when you do that, with the right conditions, this is what you can see.
That's pretty awesome. So you're basically looking underneath the optical slant.
Yep.
I mean, this might be a silly question because knowing already that Anthony's the best comeback they've had from the globe side is to say he's at 9 feet rather than a foot. That was their best retort. But is there any comeback that you've had so far, Ranty?
No, not had
no
anything
answers
that I know of anyway. But I'm assuming they're going to try and say that I was about 60 feet above sea level.
I don't think you're gonna. I mean, you can see. Look at the waves.
The trickles. I mean, those waves were about 4 inches, 5 inches high. You know, they were tiny.
They looked massive at full zoom, though, didn't they?
There's the height of the tripod. I'm actually beneath the height of the tripod, and when I stand up, you can see that I was taking that footage from way down. You know, and then I crouched down again to take the images that we were showing just before, and that's it. Oh, did I say about the next video? Did I show you that?
No, I don't think you did.
Have I presented it on the next one? Because I move away slightly on the next image. Let me see if I can. 3701. That's 701. So where's the next? There we go. So this is the next video. So I'm still, this is where I've just been stood, where my cursor is now. So I've moved perhaps 15 paces further away. So I've maybe gone another couple of inches above sea level.
Got a troll in the back chat, Jim Sanders.
Yeah, I got him.
Oh, bro. Sorry, you carry on, Ranty. Well done, Owen.
Okay. But I've basically moved just a bit further.
You're muted. You muted Ranty. Can you hear us, Ranty? Oh, he's going back to his Hangout page to unmute himself. Hey ho. There we go.
Right, there we go. Right.
Onward and upward.
I've forgotten what I'm doing now. Yeah, so this is where I was doing the shooting from before, and I'm maybe 15 paces further away, and probably I'm holding the camera at chest height again, so I'm about 6 feet above sea level when I do this video now. And you want to see the difference in the reflections of the buildings and how unclear everything is. It's
this all looks a bit familiar.
Yep. Look at that. Refracting up, down on itself. You can actually see the refraction zone. There we go. Oh, hang on. That's a very good image. Can you see? You can actually see the band of refraction going there. You can see the windows are doubled up. We know there's only 2 windows on this side. And we've got 4 windows. You can see the complete reflection of this, like being repeated up. I suppose that's what they would say was the looming. This would be their looming thing, wouldn't it?
No. Looming is the effect of the refraction, infinite gradients of refraction all the way around the curve, bringing the item back in the first instance for it to sit perfectly on the horizon. That's looming.
Yeah, it's the whole thing.
Yeah,
the whole thing is supposedly looming.
Right, so if you were to... I mean, literally, that is the explanation for this, Ranty, but it defies explanation when you have a bloody mirage right through the middle of it. But either way, you know, what they would
not
say
if it's like a fractal looming.
Yeah, but in any event, what we're saying is the whole thing, if it was a mirage, essentially, looming, you know, being bent around from where it can't be seen, then you'd have to have some sort of distortion applied to it, as opposed to perfect when you're at absolutely ground level, and then more and more distortion creeping its way down the image as you raise in altitude, which is what's actually happening. You know, all this should be at the horizon, this blockage and miraging, and it certainly shouldn't be going up, it should be going down, or at least that's how it normally works for their mathematics to actually make any sense.
Yeah, I've just screenshotted that because I'm just gonna open it up with Paint. Just bear with me. I'm just gonna show you the difference. So I want to open, no, not that image. Go back a couple. Right, so open this in Paint. And I'm going to paste that in. I'm just going to increase it a little bit of size. And what we're looking at is essentially this building here. So there we go. So this is the original building underneath with the corrugated roofs here. There's the building with the 2 windows. And it's like it's put another sort of layer on top of it, like another story on top of the building, because it's just repeated itself.
Cool. Been muted again, Ranty.
But there's your money shot. That's your money shot, Nath.
Cool. Very, very cool. Give me the eject button quite quick enough for some of these trolls. Muted again.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, it's probably that. It's probably that Chris.
Yeah, of course it's him. It's always him.
Got him. Little shit. Third time's a charm.
Chris came into the chat yesterday after the hangout had finished. So he came in and him and Ali B were going at it. Something rotten. So I think he's on a mission to try and cause as much interruption today as he possibly can.
Oh well.
Ali B said that he had mental health issues, and I think that triggered him.
See.
Well, that is obvious. Come on.
But what can you say? You know, if he's acting like this, you know, he's just trying to come and destroy. You know, just be a bellend, basically.
I mean, that's not the first time I've heard that. I mean, I know the guy's got issues, and I don't want to take the piss out of him, but this can't be helping those issues if he has them. I'm not saying he has, but that was, you know, what you hear on the grapevine. He's got this, that, and the other, depression or anxiety or whatever the hell he's got. But this can't be helping. You know, if that's the case, this won't help. You know,
it's like an obsessive compulsive disorder.
Yeah, go and get yourself a cup of tea. Go for a walk.
And try and do this. It's like, you know, why don't you just chill out?
Try some breathing exercises.
You know.
He just needs an internetless vacation for like a month. Like
Maybe
go away and like actually try to remember who you really are.
Anyway.
Right, Darren, well, you're welcome to leave, you know. You don't have to be here. Darren Lauder, listening to this shite definitely won't help. Well, see you later. You don't have to be here.
I think he's referring to Chris. He's saying listening to us won't help his depression and anxiety.
Yeah, but he's calling this, you know, shit, basically. He's calling this what we're doing.
I don't mind. 133 people watching. I'm pretty pleased. So I'm not going to moan.
Well, he knows where yeah, exactly. He knows where the door is. See you later, Darren.
No, he is very warmly welcome here. Thank you very much for tuning in and watching.
All right, okay.
Please share the show.
And smash that donate button.
No, I'm just glad that I've got an audience. You know, as much as the audience might not necessarily agree, they're here, they're watching. You know, they're interested, even if it's from a negative perspective. That doesn't fuss me. You know, I'm here to entertain an audience, and you've got to have an audience to entertain in the first place, regardless of whether or not they love to hate you or love to love you. Doesn't make any difference. They're still here, they're still watching, they're still commenting. Thank you very much for being here.
Yeah, it's like an addiction for them, isn't it? They can't get enough. And to be fair, I mean, the audience is growing, so it's not like the trolls are growing. There's only a few of them. So you are getting more people joining the show, which is what we want. And we had a couple of guys join yesterday. We had a bit of a chat with them afterwards, and they put a point forward yesterday in the show that was like, if you have a burning building and the smoke is filling up the room, you're told to go to the floor to breathe and see further, because that's where the cleaner air is. And essentially, that's what I did with the observation. So he made a very good point, and that's pretty relevant, I think, to what was actually going on. Get yourself underneath that crap.
Underneath that crap.
Hey, wait, this is a real person, I think.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh.
Get lost, Chris.
That sounded like Brenda.
Go and sort out your depression on someone else's time. I'm not here to counsel you.
I believe Anthony will maybe popping in later. I know he's busy for the most part of the day, but he said he might pop in if he can.
I think the show will probably be done. I've seen his timetable for the day. He's well busy.
Yeah, I mean, that was the thing. I took the day off. Well, I took the morning off work to go on TFR this morning. And then at lunchtime, I just couldn't be bothered going in. I took the day off. Really bad, innit? I've got a backlog of work, and I'd rather be talking about flat Earth than actually going out and earning some money.
I like being busy. Busy's good. So where's all the responses to this observation then? Where's the explanations? Where's the mathematics?
There isn't, because it would be different if there was no refraction zone that was seen in the imagery. But the point and the video, to be fair, so the fact that we actually can evidence where that refraction is and it's above the lower buildings, it's kind of like they can't answer to that, because normally they're used to responding to stuff reflecting at the horizon.
Yeah,
and not
I think
above the
no one
horizon.
really expected this. I didn't expect this. I guess that diffraction-induced optical slant giraffe kind of expected it.
The plain truth. Hello.
Hello. Hello. Can you hear us, plain truth?
It's him.
Hello.
Hello. Speak up.
Oh, I didn't know I was muted.
Yeah, you were muted too, Nami. Sorry, I should have mentioned that.
Very
I tried to say a couple
quiet.
of things, but it seemed like nobody or that. Yeah, okay. Now that makes sense now.
Yo.
Hello.
Hello.
Good to have you.
But it's funny because when I made the giraffe picture, I was basically just figuring out the slant effect. But I didn't know
Stephen, hello.
yet about even this whole weird.
Oh, Nathan. Bye.
Okay, but I didn't even know about this footage yet. I didn't know that if you actually look down really low, that you would then bypass the whole slant effect. And the funny thing is that the giraffe here, his head is really close to the water. So I didn't know as I was making it, but apparently the thing that I made actually already knew it. It's one of those interesting things.
Perhaps you were being a bit psychic with your elf radar.
Well, didn't you make that after we had a little conversation about diffraction, Arwen?
Hello, Hannah.
I'm being troll infested
muted
by Chris.
I renamed it diffraction, but I originally named it refraction.
Okay.
But I made it like the day before. We hadn't seen this footage yet, so.
It's funny with this one, like, what are they, or when you're muted again, what are they protesting here, right? Like, they're protesting a guy going out and taking photos of the landscape?
No, they're protesting revealing stuff that they don't have an answer to.
Yeah,
I kind of handed them the answer, and that is, hey, come on, it's fractal looming. What else can it be? You know, hey, come on, it's come on.
Or when you're muted again, it seems like perhaps the lesson here is that try everything, right? Like, don't take any model for granted, because it, like Anthony and had been saying, he wouldn't have even thought to try this, right? You guys just sort of assumed that it wouldn't work to take to try to capture this type of footage from such a low height. But
well, yeah, I mean, everyone has everything has a field of view, and it's like if you're an ant on a table, it's not like you're going to see the end of the table because you've got a field of view, and that's always been what we expect, and it's counterintuitive to go lower when you're trying to see further. It's like the opposite. So it is the last sort of thing to expect to do. But it is like a hack, if you think about it, a cheat, computer game cheat. So you just go underneath it and take a peek under, and you can see what's evident is the flat Earth. I mean, it's astonishing stuff.
Yeah,
it's looking underneath the blanket.
Yes,
that's how I would name it.
Or lifting the veil.
Lifting the veil. Yeah, I think that's. Yeah, lifting the veil. I like that. Yeah, lift. How was that?
How many are you fighting there, Nathan? It seems like you're under a serious troll attack at the minute.
Just another day at the Flat Earth debate. It's all good by me.
It looks like you're busy there deleting. I mean, you're actually kicking them before we even see them appear in the chat. So
No, he's bypassing that.
how is he doing that?
I don't know.
No, that is me sniping them out. I'm just quicker on the mouse than they are at the moment.
But I don't see him appear in the back chat at least.
Yeah, I'm getting them quicker than you can see them appear.
Wow.
I think every time he joins, well, not joins, but he logs into his new account, he clicks a dislike on the live stream because you're now at 19 likes and 72 dislikes. So
I like a cat.
Nah, they just did a downvote bomb. They do that.
That's
They do
fine.
it every time we bring up really good points in a show.
oh, are they throwing the toys out of the pram?
Yeah.
Yeah. When it's really bad, they do 333 downvotes.
Oh, right, okay.
This time it's only 66, I think.
Good. YouTube measure those metrics as for your interactions. It's great. Keep it up, lads. Thanks. Dislike if you dislike the show. I encourage anybody who dislikes the show to slam the dislike button. Like it if you like it. Dislike it if you dislike it.
You should get a flat Earth dummy, you know, for the ballers to spit out and put it on your shop, and they can buy one.
You mean a spitball?
No, a literal flat Earth dummy that they can stick in the mouth and suck like a little baby. Because they're always
Thank
throwing.
them. Thank you
the
very
spit in the
much
dummy out.
for repeatedly joining, giving me all those extra views and all those extra viewer interactions with the dislike button. Thank you. I really appreciate it. It pushes me up. Thank you.
That is true.
Yeah, if you come and watch every single day, then eventually the show will die, right? The only thing you have to do is just come every single day and watch every single show. Then I'm sure it'll go away.
So, is there any ballers in chat that want to come on and tell us what we were seeing from the Barrow footage? Maybe Alan B could come in and
Oh, God. Nah.
and obfuscate for another 30 minutes before Nathan kicks you again.
Alan B has lost his comedic value.
No, he's just raging, isn't he? He's turned into a bit of a troll.
Yeah.
Wasn't it the same with the NASA astronaut, M. Scott Veach? He's turned into a bit of a keyboard troll, hasn't he?
There's only one way for a baller. You're on the losing side of the argument, so it's downhill all the way, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Yeah, the cognitive dissonance level just gets too high after a while hanging around here.
Gotta cause headaches and stuff. Must do. Or depression, anxiety, stress, those sorts of things.
Obsessive repetitive disorder. Bit like what I've got, actually. Keep going down to this barrow and filming the flat.
Yeah, going back to some bees over and over again. That sort of OCD.
That kind of OCD, like Anthony's going and lying on his belly.
Contagious. You had Al Kay and Miles the Liar Davis down at the same place, so it's contagious.
Yeah, I'd still love to see you basically taking it even just a little step further and like almost hitting the waves on the camera, like that you can actually see the waves very close by, just slightly getting in view.
Sorry, are you saying you want me to go lower than a foot?
Yeah.
I
want
you
you to
go.
go on actual sea level.
Hang on, we've got 4-inch waves in the foreground, and you want me to go less than a foot?
Yeah.
Although
Just to see what
proportionately,
happens, you know.
I've got to agree.
Why didn't I think of that?
I've got to agree. Hi, Nettie.
that-
Hello, Nettie. How you doing?
Yo. Hello.
Hello. Good to have you.
Hello, hello.
Hello. Good to have you.
Mute the other room.
We
Can you hear me now?
Mute your
Yeah, we
hangout.
can
if
hear
you
you.
could.
Cool, yeah. Yeah, this picture that you took the other day was quite fascinating. There was, you know, the reflection off the shore into the water. I've got the picture here that I enhanced, if I can share it. Then I'm going to do that.
You just click in the Google Hangouts. If you click screen
The
share,
green
if you
button.
move your cursor to the left, it should open up a green button towards the top left. And it'll say share screen.
Got it. You got that?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. See these red lines that I drew in it?
Yeah.
below the bottom red line, yeah, I think that's the place that you're looking for is your actual clear layer that you need to be looking through with your camera to take a photograph, because the layer above that other red line, yeah, that's a reflection in the water, and on the top of the red line, the top red line where this other red line's coming down from the back off my mic a bit, coming down from the left, yeah, that's the actual shoreline. Everything below that is reflection in the water. Now, weirdly enough, it's pulled it up, and I don't know how it's done that. It just looks that way, but that is actually flat, that picture.
No, it's pulled it up because it is actually reflecting in an air layer above the view.
No, it's actually reflecting in the water. See the two red lines? In between those two red lines, that's the water.
Yeah,
it's weird. Isn't that weird?
Yeah, it's not possible for it to reflect in an air layer. That can't.
No.
But how can it reflect back upwards?
But the air layer that you can see underneath it, that's the air layer. You know where you can just see the corner of the boat on the right hand side there.
Yeah.
The air layer just runs underneath there, and you see it just blue changes to a really, really, really thin white line. Now that thin white line is cold pressure. It's cold air. That's why it pushes the warm air above it, and that just in between those two air layers, that's the magic place. But it's about 6 inches off the ground, so you have to be laid on your belly while the tide's going out and take the photograph with a long lens, and you should get the bank on the other side.
I've got the bank on the other side.
No, but how can it be reflecting upward?
Was this
in
taken
the sea?
from
The sea is not reaching all the way up there.
This photograph was taken from his altitude photograph at 45 feet, facing down towards that picture. I've got to say that this isn't off the shore. This isn't on his belly or anything. This is a later photograph that he showed. It's just what could you call it? A screenshot of something that he showed later.
Right, okay. So,
yeah, this is at a completely different angle. This isn't from the shore at all. You know,
was this me standing? I have no idea where you got this image from. Which one was this? Was it from
it was yesterday.
Video?
Just on the video, and Ranty's just taken a
video,
screen cap of it.
Ranty's when I was stood up. Right, I see.
Yeah, you stood up. You said you you filming from somewhere above?
That was eye height.
Yeah, I would have been holding the camera about 4.5 to 5 foot.
Yeah, that was right. Yeah. Well, anyway, that the red line at the bottom and where it goes from blue to dark blue, that's your magic zone that you need on the shore to get that picture. But yeah, you could do that from like just about anywhere with a decent lens and set it to infinity on the the focus, and you should get it. Thing is, you need a sheet of white card when you do that first. Set a camera to infinity. You got to do some weird shit to your camera and then take a photograph of it, and it reflects the white light back and sets the focus to infinity, the AF. So everything behind it becomes more in focus because you're trying to focus what's in front. You need to bring the background in. So use your AF for that. So anyway, just thought I'd give a little bit of camera poke there, a bit of a trick.
Love it. Like a few camera tips.
Yeah. It's all about your AF and focusing your background in. Don't try and focus your foreground in because you're just going to blur out your background sort of thing. Try and get a balance of the both. And don't worry about ISO too much. All right, on a bright day, take it to about 400 ISO. You can get away with 200 all the time. You've always got contrast and you've always got enhancements on, your photographic stuff that you use like Photoshop or whatever you want to use, to enhance a photograph. You can always stick a bit more color and light in. There are no rules for photography. You can't get it right first time. You either do, you don't.
Well, the other thing that Anthony's been doing, he's shown me a couple of shots that he's been taking, just off the cuff shots at St. Bees in monochrome, just in black and white, and it brings out a lot more detail. I was quite surprised how much better it looked.
Black and white, yeah, it does. It brings out fantastic detail. It brings out more tones than anything else. The blacks and the whites, because obviously, black and white aren't colours; they're shades. Yeah, a lot of people don't know that either. No, black and white aren't colours; they're just shades. Shades of black and white, red, blue, green, orange, and yellow, and all that. They're colours, but they're split colours of one colour, which is white. So it's like I don't know, it's like weird. It goes on, and then light, it's magnetic reflections of toroidal fields and all that sort of thing. Oh my, and it can go on and go on and go on.
Indeed.
Magnetic reflections of toroidal fields.
Yeah, toroidal, inverse toroidal fields, magnetic flux vortexes that swing around and bash into each other and create light. That's what they do.
I think that's all theoretical.
Theoretical?
Yeah.
So what's light then? Where did you get it from? Did you buy it down at the basement store?
No, I just don't think it has anything to do with magnetic fields.
So what is it there? Come on then. What is it? What's causing it?
Well, I'm not, photons.
So what they're made up of? Electrons.
No, they're not made of electrons. Photons are, in my opinion, I think that photons are the fundamental particles. So they don't break.
And when they get excited, they generate light. Yeah?
They are light.
Right. So what's the field? What's the thing that actually makes them generate the light? What is it? What's the interaction? What's the causality? What's the effect?
Light bulbs.
Of the causality.
Excitation of electrons.
Yeah. So they create an excitation in the field of what?
No, there's no field.
So what is it there then? What makes them interact? They can't interact on their own. They can't.
Well, I think light only interacts with electrons. So it doesn't interact with itself. It doesn't interact with anything.
You've read of
It only interacts with an electron. When it hits an electron, it gets absorbed.
You've read of dual-electric fields, yeah.
No, there's no field. What do you mean
There is a field. It's a field. Of course it's a field.
No, there's no field. What field?
Not so much as a field, but a wave then.
No, there's no wave. There's no field. There's no need for those things.
So you're saying life's a constant on a constant linear scale going in what? Every direction?
No, I don't know what you're talking about now. I'm just saying I don't know where you're getting. I don't know why they call it electromagnetic wave. Like it's not electric, it's not magnetic, and it's not a wave. So all those words don't make any sense when you're talking about a photon. Quantum Eraser did his presentation yesterday, and one of his main points I agree with completely is that light is particles. All the evidence points to the idea that light is particles. Right? So there's no need for fields.
Nah,
well, one of the things he didn't go through yesterday in the example, maybe he did. I was paying attention to how the show was running, but I have heard the presentation a couple of times now. But perhaps it was an aside note on one of the presentations he did for me before the show, was to say that they've done the double slit experiment with things that are much bigger than photons. They've scaled it up to much larger matter and done the same experiment, so you can fire matter through a double slit. And what do you know? You get the same exact thing if you're not observing it. You get a wave.
They've done not with matter, but with electrons. But I don't even believe that that's possible personally. I think that's a hoax.
Fair enough.
Wasn't there a Doppler shift experiment where that went on, and they did the light experiments through the slits, and they filmed it with different cameras, and they did it with normal film, they did it with, all these other sort of digital things, and every time when they observed it, the light behaved differently. Was that the Doppler effect? Why does the light behave differently under different observations by different means, through different perspectives, through digital, through our own eyes? When we look at light through a magnifying glass, why does it behave differently again?
Well,
why does it always shift
light responds differently when observed.
So what does it refract
from? I learned about it.
Okay, so can you be more specific?
Yeah. So what's its refraction? What's its interaction? What makes it behave differently?
Then what situation are we comparing that it behaved like?
No, I know what he's referring to. It is part of the double slit experiment that if something observes the light as it moves through the slits, then that will collapse the wave function.
Yeah. Okay.
It will respond differently because it is being observed.
Yeah, I think that the problem there is that when you observe the photon, then you can't observe the photon without absorbing it by an electron. So any kind of means of observing it requires it to be absorbed by an electron.
That's what CERN are doing. They're doing that with the Hadron Collider.
Yeah, but why would that then? There's still light proceeding on, but the wave function seems to only be collapsed.
Yeah, because the assumption, the underlying assumption that they're making is that it's the same photon coming out as going in.
They're saying it lasts about a millionth of a second as well, and they've measured it and they've videoed it, and it's like, well what's the point?
I don't think we should assume that it's the same photon coming out as going in.
All right, so that was an assumption on my behalf that it could be. Right. I
Well,
see,
not
yeah.
that there's a,
What's it
not that it's the
change
same
into then,
photon. It's just that it
No.
travels. I think that's the incorrect assumption. Is that you've got this, whatever it may be, generating a single photon, and at the photographic plate end, you've got something detected, and the assumption from there, the extrapolation that we make, is that the photon has travelled from A to B, whereas that may not necessarily be the case. In fact, I don't think it is.
No,
And
I think
I think that part,
it's
like
going
that
through
that photons are rather like arcs, really, and that
Well,
as soon as they touch, then they will be detectable as like particle remnants. They will interact. I don't think they're really like, yeah, like, well, when you say particle, you almost start to imagine like little globes that actually travel, and
I think
I'm
it's.
not too certain about that concept.
I
But
don't think
I
it's
have one specific question I wanted to ask, and that is the whole wave function collapsing thing.
It's
There's
just
a
a
specific
mathematical
detail about that, and that is when when it is observed in the experiment, does the amount of light particle detections, like the amount of hits on the other side, are they the same or are they decreased? Like if it's going to go like in a straight line pattern instead of the wave pattern, is it the same amount of hits that actually come out of it?
Well, it's much
Or
easier
is
to just
the whole
to boil it
wave?
down to one. It's much easier, Arwen. So if you fire a single photon, the expression at the end sort of summarize it. Knowledge of the which path information collapses the waveform, which is to say that the photon that's being fired through the double slit is only in existence as a probability until it is actually observed. And then, because it is observed, its actual position manifests as a position. But before that point, it only exists as a probability, and that can be expressed as a wave. But that doesn't make light a wave.
No, no, I'm not saying it is a wave. I'm saying that it's a
This
wave
idea
function.
that
It is the path that it travels.
But that's a
this idea that
mathematical.
it exists
But
as
that's a mathematical
probability is
construct.
not.
That's to
No,
say
but
it's a.
still doesn't answer my question though, and that is, as you do this test with the double slit experiment, is when you observe it, when it is clearly being observed, which collapsed the wave function. It's not literally it's wave function. Do the amount of hits, basically the particle hits of the light, which can be clearly detected, do they decrease or
No.
are they exactly the same?
No. So you set your machine to fire off, one photon every 1/100th of a second for the sake of argument, and as you witness it, you would just see 2 lines of particles at that number being formed on the photographic plate. Whereas if no one was observing it, you'd have the exact same number being fired out of the machine because that's how you've set it. That's
Okay,
perfect.
so there's exactly the same amount of hits.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's an answer to my question.
Well, you know what? I would
But
say
that
that
means that there is not really particles being absorbed
I
by
would say
an
that-
observer.
show me the machine that can fire one photon, because I don't believe such a thing exists. And how are they even defining one photon? I don't think that they even have a clear definition of that, because
Hadron Collider at CERN can fire 1 photon.
Yeah, but a hadron collider
so
is.
they say, right?
Well, they've got 3 of them, haven't they?
So they say.
It's
This
far,
is-
We're not allowed to go in there and check them. And I don't think that, like, I'm just saying that people talk a lot about these experiments, but I don't think that I don't think any of these people talking about these experiments have ever witnessed a machine that could fire a single photon. And then when you actually ask the question of what is a single photon and how would we define it, the answers are not forthcoming from quantum physicists. Like, it's not.
I would have to
clear.
agree. I mean, I've asked that question of John when he first showed me the quantum eraser experiment, and I'm not going to knock John in any way, shape, or form, but I'll just echo what you've just said.
Yeah. What is it like? What is the unit? And I, by the way, have the same kind of approach to chemistry as well. It's always like they give you formulas in how one combination of molecules and all that can transform in a certain ratio into another type.
The atomic weight. I know what you're talking
But
about.
Can it really be done with singular molecules like that? And I don't think that they can actually isolate it to that far. That even if you attempt to do that, that it'll change the very properties of the material, so that it's only a ratio, basically.
Yeah.
But it's
That's
all
what I think.
it's all particles though. From my understanding, it's all particles. Everything right down to light. It's all particles.
That's what I think. I think that that's the case, although I'm not. It's hard to be sure. But
Exactly.
you know,
Sounds like we've got exactly the same opinion on this, Nummy.
The problem with this, like, the quantum eraser experiment and the implications is that I just think that if you're going to base your whole view of reality on an experiment like that, that you should have performed the experiment yourself, and you should be able to define things like exactly what is a single photon, and have we verified that we can fire a single photon? Because is there a technology, can we emit a single photon? I mean, I think if they could emit a single photon, it would answer so many of the questions that they're asking with the experiment anyway, right? But it's like they just take these things for granted in terms of, you know, because then it's that down conversion thing where they actually say that, so they take the single photon and they split it in two. So was it ever really one photon if you could split it in two? Like there's just not very, these things aren't very well defined when you actually look into it. So
No, they do it slightly differently, I think. I think they basically have like a photon emitting source, or yeah, whatever, a lamp, very specific setup, and then they have just a shutter, and how they then
Hey,
test
Alan.
it is by just opening it and then closing it immediately, and just keep doing that just long enough until a single photon hit has been registered, and that is how they emit a single photon particle. So they measure it only by if there is a single hit, basically.
Sure, I'm sure that may very well be the case, Arwin, but I think what Nummy's saying is you have to apply the same degree of skepticism to everything. You can't just say, well, it would seem from what we have had demonstrated that a single photon is detected on the photographic plate, therefore they are emitting.
But that's the whole point. I'm just trying to describe
I get it,
how
and
it works. It's
you may
not
very
like
well
they're
be right.
literally firing a single photon like a bullet.
Sure, I can
It's
almost
just, this
hear
is the way
John's voice ringing in my ears, going, "God, why didn't you understand this aspect of it?" But I'm just saying, you have to apply, as Nummy says, the same degree of skepticism that you apply to everything else.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
But Arwin, you're also wrong about how they're claiming to fire a single photon. They claim that they're stimulating certain materials with a very tiny amount of electricity such that they will emit a single photon, like kind of similar to the photoelectric effect. They're not using a shutter.
I don't know exactly how, but I do know that they basically isolate a single photon hit, and then using some kind of shutter to turn on or close off the source.
I just question how they define a single photon hit. I don't know.
We've got about an hour left, a little under an hour left actually, on this live stream. I hope you're all enjoying the debate thus far. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live, and a link in the info box below the video once it's rendered. But most importantly, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Massive thanks to all who have shared the show thus far. Sharing the show increases the live audience, of course, and this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. As I say, there is about an hour, maybe a little bit less than an hour left on this live stream.
Like as a graph, as a wave, you know what I mean? It's like nothing real special, and then obviously they put all their math to it and they say, yeah, it flew at this speed, we divide it by that, and we multiply it by our asses, we all pull our quilt kilts up and box your aunties.
But in a sense, Nami is correct that it's really impossible to even make sure that it is like a singular photon. It could just be a group of photons. It could be, you don't know the amount. You just know it is photons hitting right there.
If we're going to regard
this amount of energy.
If we're going to regard photons as being particles, in my opinion, it has to be at least two. right? Because if we're going to assign a frequency, i.e. a color to the light, because, you know, you have to remember that these experiments only work with monochromatic light as well, right? You won't,
Okay.
the pattern will just be lost if you use white light or if you mix together a bunch of light. You have to be very careful to use just a single color. But what does color denote in light, right? It's like, I mean, it has to do
filters, reds, greens, blues, hydrogen alphas, oxygens, sulfurs, all those sorts of filters. You bang all them in front of it, and whatever you record, you see. But yeah, like you said, if you record it through anything other than lights like colors and other different mediums, you know, proper confused integrated lights, it splits the spectrum of light up too much, and they can't record anything. It records too much data, and they can't extrapolate from that too much data what the real data is, basically.
Yeah. So. But I mean, I'm just saying, if we're going to regard photons as particles, then I think that one photon, what physicists are regarding as one photon, has to be two photons,
or a cluster, an unknown amount of photons.
I think. Well, it has to be a minimum of two.
Well, they have a theoretical law.
Why is that?
Some entanglement, don't they? Where
so it can have a frequency.
Yeah, it's got to go off and come back as another thing. I don't know, the same thing. So if it goes in pairs, then it'll come back as itself as one. But I've noticed that to send one.
But now with photons, you're automatically assuming it is like a single unit that actually travels a distance.
Well, yeah, I'm saying if we start from that assumption, then one photon, as you know, what they're calling one photon, has to be at least two particles.
Yeah, but what if it is just an arc, and there is like an instant transmission both directions? It's just an arc.
An arc
what? Like an arc is not. I don't know. An arc is more of like a pattern than a thing.
Process and
oh, it's like an arc of electricity.
It's an effect from a causality.
Yeah, but an arc of electricity is like a bridge of electrons between two oppositely charged things. So you can't you don't. That's like saying the electrons are an arc, but no, the electrons form an arc. So you might be suggesting that the photons form an arc, but
yeah,
the photons are an arc doesn't really make sense.
No, they are particles, but the way that those particles then express themselves are through arcs.
No, it's through straight lines, actually, not arcs.
Yeah, except if you don't observe them, and then they go into other types of shapes.
Because when they're using these detectors, it seems very simple to me that when they put the detectors there to observe the photons, that they're just interrupting, like they're absorbing the photon and they're re-emitting another photon.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that even diffraction itself proves that light does not just go in a straight line.
No, diffraction is also, I think, the same effect. Is that actually what's strange about diffraction is that diffraction requires that the photon be absorbed and re-emitted as well. So like that's like kind of like like for instance, a pinhole camera, right? Like there's an electrostatic field over the surface of a piece of cardboard that doesn't have a hole in it. But then if you poke a small enough hole, the electrostatic field will still be continuous, right? You won't interrupt the electrostatic field by making a really small hole. If you make the hole too big, then you'll create a gap in the electrostatic field. But then, so basically, like electrically, the surface of the cardboard hasn't changed so long as the hole is sufficiently small.
Okay, so how do they know, right? How do these particles know what shape to form and what pattern to form and why they're making that pattern? When they're reflecting off an object like you in a mirror, what creates the image? What is that? What holds that image there? What is it? What is a reflection?
Well, I think it has a reflection. Well, it's that it has to do with the properties of the electrons that they're absorbed and re-emitted by. So that's like, for instance, why do we see colors when we shine white light on colored objects, right? It's because the light is absorbed and re-emitted at a different frequency by the electrons on the surface.
200 years ago, people would have called a mirror magic, and the thought that have had the soul captured in it.
They're not really, no, but that's not how colors are supposed to work. Certain frequency of light are absorbed, and the rest is being reflected.
through different mediums.
Yeah,
Well,
it's not
actually-
like the actual surface is changing the entire light. It's just parts of the light is being absorbed and others are being reflected. That is why if you have a very dark object like a black surface, you don't have a lot of things that get reflected off it. You don't see a lot, but it does absorb the light, all of it or most of it, causing it to heat up faster in relation to, for example, a mirror or a white object.
Well, no, there's different. I don't know. I mean, I think if you look into
That's well established. That's well established.
Like,
Dark objects absorb more heat through
yeah.
light than light objects.
Yeah, some of it is absorbed as heat, but in order for it to reflect, the photon has to be absorbed and then re-emitted as well. It doesn't just bounce off.
Okay.
It's funny how reflections act in different light as well. Different colored light. You know, like if you use candlelight, you know, different or natural light, or then strobe lights. They're all different types of lights that emit different frequencies, I think.
Yeah, but that's also because electrical light has other effects added to it because of the electricity that is feeding it, that pulses.
Yeah.
Natural burning light is very different. Chemical light, basically, chemical burning light is very different from electrical induced.
No, it's
light.
all I think it's all the same. A photon, every photon is the same, in my opinion.
No, no, I disagree. I'm against photon equality.
Wow. Okay, I agree with you, Numi. I'm on your side.
Looking a bit boring, you know.
Well, it seems that the photons can be, that they can be reduced and translated into other forms, other colors, and other intensities of light, right? So it seems that I think that basically the intensity of the light just has to do with the frequency. So the number per second, say, right? Like white light.
Yeah, like a strobe frequency.
Like 10,000 baseballs per second, and then. Red light.
White light is not white light. White light is all of the colors combined.
It's true, that is true. Yeah, that is true.
And if you then refract it through a prisma, then they split up in their respective colors.
Yeah, but the fact that you can change it into all the colors doesn't mean white light isn't white light.
Yeah, it does.
Just before we move on to this,
it exactly does.
Sorry to
because
interrupt
if
you
you do
guys.
it with a specific color, then it doesn't split up.
Sorry, Owen, I just want to interrupt for 1 second. So the video, because it's generated so much conversation, I've put a link to Quantum Eraser's discussion they had yesterday in the info box below the video. So check it out if you don't know what the hell's being talked about, because it has obviously generated quite a lot of conversation. So yeah, there's a link below if you want to check out the video that's being or that has spurred this conversation off.
Yeah, maybe we should get back to flat Earth, because this is a pretty.
I
think it's the fundamental nature of our reality when you're discussing this subject, if you ask me. So it is very much on topic for me, but you know, for some people they may not see the links.
What you're actually
it helps us figure out or give us a clearer view on these optical effects that we are observing.
Yeah.
If we understand more about optics, then we might figure out exactly what we're seeing in this incredible footage.
Yeah, I agree.
I came on and started putting my 10th penneth worth in today, because you know, I think. Like you've all said, yeah, it is a fundamental thing about everything that you do in every aspect of what you're trying to do. Now you go into digital photography, you're going to be going into telescopes and things like that next, and lasers, and you're going to be wanting to do all these experiments yourself. When you get to that point, you know, you'll have more of an insight into it by having these conversations like you do.
Well, I agree with you. I kind of look at it from a different perspective to that, which is to say that that's isolating down what you will see even further so when you think it's not binocular vision when you're talking about telescopes. But I mean on a more fundamental level, you know, if we're all looking at the same thing from a different vantage point, I hate to use the word, but you know, relativity does come into it to a certain aspect, and you can't ignore that. So how we all take in the world on a very fundamental level is dealt with in this subject, if in my opinion.
Yeah, incrementally, slowly over time, because people can't take in information as quick as other people can. So it has to be broken down and turned over, shown to everybody, shown the proof, shown the evidence, show them how it works, take them through it step by step, because they're just going to come into this room and say, what the flaming hell are them lot talking about? You know, 1 minute they're talking about flat Earth, next minute they're talking about, you know, quantum entanglement and how light works. It's like, well, what's that going to do with flat Earth? Well, you know, you've got to explain it to them that
optics.
It has got everything to do with it.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly. Quantum entanglement is the fundamental nature of how we all are taking the world in one go. and it has to work, otherwise obviously we wouldn't all be here. But understanding it is understanding the nature of our reality, and flat earth is the first step on this. This is probably step 10, but it's still on the same subject. If people are lost in this subject, that's fine. Come back in a year and watch it again.
Well, it's also interesting that our understanding of things like photons and electrons is fairly theoretical, in the sense that we can't observe them directly. Like, you can't bounce anything off of a photon to observe its properties, like its shape. Potentially, if it's a particle, its shape and form, and it's difficult in the end to even define. There's still disagreement over whether it is.
Yeah, but that is not how it is even done. It is deduced, just like with chemistry.
That's what I'm saying. So it's theoretical.
Its existence, they isolate its properties by combining it, like by testing what is there, what is left, is left to be inevitably there.
But there's still a lot of disagreement and controversy in this, even in mainstream physics, right? Even among the conventional physicists, this is still an area that's in dispute. It's not
because it's a brand new area.
What it really is, because it remains theoretical, like so many things. They can't really literally test it.
Well, we can't directly observe it because there's nothing that we can bounce off of it. Like, we use photons to reveal the form of other things by bouncing them off of things, but we can't bounce anything off the photon itself. There's nothing that we have no particles that we could emit to observe the photon in action. And it seems that any effort made to observe the photon in action kills the photon, basically. The photon stops.
You require photons to see, so you can't observe what photons are.
Right. Well, you can't observe photons.
But you can deduce it. You can still deduce how it works by its interaction with other things.
But there's errors that are made, right? Like I say, like, they assume that the photon that's going into the detector is the same photon that's coming out of the detector.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's
just an assumption. Where I think that really what's happening is that an electron's absorbing the photon, and then that's causing an excitation such that another different photon comes loose and fires off in a direction.
Because one of Newton's fundamental statements of the laws of motion is that an object will stay at rest until an equal and unequal force makes it behave differently. So the outcome of that is the causality and effect again. It goes in as something. What did it come out as, and what did it join into, and what did it attach? What split it? What excited it enough to become something else? What was that? What was that key element? What was it? That's what they're looking for.
Well, I think that's what causes, like, the diffraction pattern in the double slit or the single slit experiment as well, is that basically the electrostatic field that's still covering the hole or the slit, right, is actually absorbing the photon and re-emitting it, but it re-emits it in a limited set of directions. It doesn't re-emit it in a random
That's because the layer above it is warmer, and that re-emits the light direction into another direction again. And then above that is another layer which does the same again. And the higher you go up, the more and more and more different.
No, I don't think it has to do with temperatures. Because I'm just talking about the double.
Sure it does. I'm sure.
No, but I'm just talking about the slit. No, but I'm talking about the slit experiment.
Right. Oh, right. Down to the slant experiment again. Yeah. Right.
The slit. Right.
Slit experiment.
Yeah, I'm saying, why is there a pattern of bars, right? Like, what we see on the other side of the slit is like on, off, right? And there's a sort of wave of intensity with a central maxima, right? In the single slit experiment, say, which is supposed to be demonstrating diffraction, but it's like, so what's causing the pattern of diffraction when you put light through a slit, right? So things that we could look at is that, okay, if we make the slit wide, if the slit isn't really, really skinny, then it just goes straight through, and you don't get the pattern except for a little bit at the fringes, right? So we know that the pattern really relies, it's kind of like the pinhole camera, is that the key to it is that the hole has to be really small. So I think that
changing the frequency of the light, though.
Well, I think it's that really what's happening is that the light that we think is going through the slit is actually not going through. It's getting absorbed by the electrons that are
in front of it.
Static field over top of the hole.
Yeah.
Right? But if you make the hole too big, then you create a break in the
Yeah,
field.
or a bigger electrostatic. Well, I don't know, whatever it is that's in front of
But
it.
it's just the idea that like basically light only interacts with electrons, right? So
But could it just be that the close proximity that electrons may diverge the path of the photons instead
well,
of
yeah, I do think that, but I think that
assume that it automatically absorbs it and then re-emits it?
no, the only way that I think the only way it can diverge the path is by absorbing it and re-emitting it, and that light, that's just
But
how light
how could it?
either it goes in a straight line or it gets absorbed and re-emitted. It only has two options.
Yeah, but how could that? To me, that doesn't really make a lot of sense because then, yeah, how could the pattern be so specific? Like the absorption and then re-emission.
Because it has to do with it has to do with the frequency of the electrons, the whatever is going on inside the electrons, right? Like is happening in some sort of happens in some kind of cycle.
Yeah, if we go up to like 365 hertz, we get green, and then 400 odd we go purple, then 500 odd we go red.
Yeah, exactly.
We know that works still in the frequency bands of like lasers, same thing really.
Yeah, exactly. So the pattern is exactly, you understand what I'm saying perfectly. So the pattern is created for a similar reason. Frequency of the electrons. And so
couldn't it be something different, like more like some kind of how do you say, electrostatic tension that is just present on the surface itself that deviates the path of the light instead of absorbing it and re-emitting it? Because that to me just doesn't make a lot of sense.
Why doesn't it make a lot of sense?
Well, because then how would the whole how do you say that, the photograph affect like a tiny hole, and then just basically using that to project an entire image? That shouldn't work. And
it's the
if the whole thing is being absorbed, then how can all of that detail be reflected so perfectly through that tiny little hole? If it's all being absorbed and re-emitted.
Well, because consider that it's re-emitted in an inverse, right? Like the image comes through in the opposite orientation through the hole.
It's inverted, in other words, yeah.
Yeah, but no, but come on, seriously, absorption changes.
Yeah, exactly. The fact that it's inverted is the evidence.
No, but that's not the same thing. No, absorption usually like it takes away, and then it re-emits it differently.
Not necessarily. It could just the electron absorbs one photon and releases another one.
Yeah, but it would have to be exactly perfectly the same, the exact same thing. So there would technically not really be absorption in the normal sense.
Right.
Yeah, why not? Why couldn't that happen? It absorbs
it through a small
because
hole.
every time light hits something and then is reflected off it, there is something absorbed by it, unless it is a perfect polished mirror.
Yeah, but I've noticed.
No, not if it's just okay. Because what I'm saying is not if it's just an electrostatic field. So there's nothing.
Yeah, but why would you then assume that it is being absorbed? Why is it not just deflected in a specific pattern?
Well, this is just
by an electrostatic effect.
Because it's just working from this assumption that this is how light interacts with matter, is through absorption and re-emission. But you're right. That's not necessary. Like, that may.
But that is not the classical sense of absorption. I would rather call that deflection, because absorption.
No, that's the classical sense of absorption.
Well, fiber optic cables do the same thing. The light travels down the fiber optic cable, but the plastic does create an absorption of the actual signal that's being sent down it. So they designed a special plastic covering that reflected that light back into the plastic to pick up the signal. Yeah. It looks more like a wavy pattern, more like an alien skin. It's a weird
fiber optic is basically, it is being perfectly reflected all over it.
Yeah, on the inside.
So there's no real absorption taking place, because then the signal would reduce, and it clearly does not do that.
But it does actually over length. Like if you have a fiber optic cable that runs 1,000 miles, you've got to put a shunt in. It's called a node. And what it does is it charges all the information up into that node, and then every now and again it'll fire another load of information.
Ah, okay. So there is some absorption. Okay.
They go under the sea, the thousands and thousands and thousands of miles long are these cables, you know, and they've got to have these node junctions in them because obviously electrical conductivity over distance degrades. So you've got to have these shunts that go bang, 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 bang.
Yeah,
bang,
an amplifier. I get it.
Yeah,
that's exactly it.
Yep.
Okay, so there is some absorption.
Yeah, so well, there's a hell of a lot of absorption, and it's the outer casing of the fiber optic cable that reabsorbs the light and reflects it back into itself, so there isn't as much degradation. The thing is, if you force anything down a tiny hole, it's going to come out weird out the other side. You know what I mean? It's a force, you know, it's like a die. If you stick a pipe down a die, it's going to come out a lot smaller at the other side because you're stretching it, you're elongating it, you're squashing the atoms closer together so they're more in a straight line, packed like soldiers together, all slotted in straight columns. So, you know, it's like that's how lasers work, I guess. The closer you can tightly pack the electrons, the finer the beam you can get, the more intensity of light, the hotter the heat pattern that you get at the end of it. Under different colors, obviously, but you know that's how lasers work. I mean, we've got lasers now that can cut holes in 4 inches of steel without even a breeze, and they're just machines in workshops that we're using nowadays. You know, we've got water cutters that can cut through rocks in 10 seconds, 4 foot thick.
Yeah,
but that's using the power of water.
Yeah, but that's the way they apply it. They just
they apply it under pressure.
They apply incredible pressure. So
through a fine nozzle, and they change the actual structure of the material and make it differently.
Yeah, but they look, the modern industry, it also knows about frequencies. Yeah, they apply basically the same effect as nature does in some cases. Like certain wasps, they know how to basically drill through wood.
Exactly.
And their stinger, or the way they do it, the way I think they gnaw through it, they aren't that strong. They normally it shouldn't work, but because they do it in a very specific frequency that is attuned to the structure of the wood, and that makes it extremely easy. And we use the same kind of concept as in drills.
Yeah.
The regular drill just can't get into concrete at all. But if it's like a thrusting drill, I don't know what the exact name is. The hammer drill does it in a specific frequency, and then suddenly you can get through it because it's attuned to the frequency of the concrete. And lasers can use the same thing. Yeah. And water drills can also use the same thing. They attune it to the frequency of the material they're working on, and then it makes it a lot easier.
It also lets the sand in the water at a frequency that makes the sand turn into an abrasive and cuts straight through the concrete.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's just knowledge. It's knowledge of frequency. It helps a lot.
Really interesting fact for you, you know the bees that make the humming sound that goes buzz, 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 yeah? Only 5% of the noise made by a bee is from its wings, right? The other 95% is made from its body. Now,
it causes an electrostatic field that actually
bees
that makes them
like
lighter.
Bees don't breathe like we do.
Especially bumblebees, by the way.
Yeah, they breathe along slots in the side of the body called ventricles. And the faster they vibrate those ventricles, the more oxygen they get in. And the faster they breathe out, the more oxygen they let out. Now, as they're breathing in and out, they're flapping, and those ventricles start to hum. That's the frequency that they use, combined with their spike in their abdomen, to gnaw through wood. That's how they do it. They just chop up the wood with their spike.
Truly great and fascinating and all, but...
And then turn around, chew a lump out, spit it out, and then do it again.
This is
They're
great,
like mini hammer drills.
This is not really Shape of the Earth related. No offense. Fascinating though it is. It's not really Shape of the Earth related.
It's amazing design.
Though it is.
It is amazing combined design. All those things together.
That we found all that in nature and designed it in the world.
Well, they absorb oxygen directly into their bloodstream through osmosis, so they don't really respirate.
Mm.
But it's just incredible that one single design can have so many different purposes at the same time. It's just incredible.
So many applications into the real world that we use now. Yep, amazing stuff, innit?
And that proves the Earth is flat. So there you have it. That's proof right there.
Yep.
That couldn't happen on a globe.
Well, I just just imagine this, like how oh, evolution theory, like how would it actually come to that type of function? That just seems
Darwin. I know the Darwinian theory. I mean, yeah, I've heard it so many times.
But mutation, like such an incredible designing aspect that you can breathe using that system, that you can also use it simultaneously for drilling. Like, how could it ever mutate to that point? How could anything ever mutate to that kind of point?
Observation.
Very gradually.
Very, very gradually. Yeah, I mean, I don't believe in the
No, but how can that be? Like, it would have to go over generations, and that means that before, basically, the function of the breathing that causes them to survive would not be complete yet, and then suddenly it would start working. It doesn't make any sense.
Gorillas and monkeys don't bury their dead; they just leave them to rot, and they're certainly out walking around in the jungle with clipboards and laptops. And where's the evolution? Where's the middle bit? Where's the actual transgression from monkey to man? You know, I don't get it. You know what I mean? We didn't just start knocking around in caves with axes and bloody things, grabbing older women by their hair and dragging them in. It's like, no, it's like there's got to be some construct, some sort of evolutionary thing. I don't know what it was. Something just happened anyway. And
no,
all our minds got blanked, and then we started again, and we tried to forget the past, and now we're here, and that's it.
No, I'm pretty sure it's just design.
There's no satisfying answers to be found to these questions, unfortunately, either way.
No, well, I guess. The more we keep searching, that's the whole goal to win. Keep searching, keep researching, and you know, one day we might get more of an answer, more of a clearer picture to it all. But you know,
one day you might read a book.
Might read a book. You never know. I've got plenty of books up there that I haven't read yet. Many. Yeah, there's a bookshelf full of them up there. I've got about 12 books up there I haven't read yet.
Do you enjoy colouring them in?
Yeah, I get my crayons out regularly, as you do. Crayola jobs, yeah, pinks, reds, greens, you know. I can chew them as well if I get bored. My crayons and that, you know. Well, I'm listening to people trying to talk about things, I know it's strange, it is, the things you hear in here. Very strange.
Nah, Alice is just trolling. He's trying to suggest that we're not smart, that we don't read books. But he could even barely follow the conversation we just had about light. So he didn't really have anything to contribute.
This is an A+ series in, you know, revisionist physics. It's really great.
I followed it very
refreshing. Refreshing.
Yeah, sure you did, Alan.
Not revisionist physics. These physics are not sorted out even among conventional.
I find it incredible that you're all experts on something you can't see.
We can see it.
I don't think there are experts about this.
No, you said electromagnetic waves aren't real earlier.
I said,
how do you think your Wi-Fi is
working? What I said is that
your cell phone's working.
No, what I said is that light isn't electric, it's not magnetic, and it's not a wave. So that description is not adequate.
I thought I was the biggest cynic in the room, Alan.
The convention. So you tell me, are photons?
So how do these engineers manipulate it using electricity and magnetism to make these underground sea cables that run fiber optics? So you're telling me they're got some secret technology they're hiding from us?
No, light can be manipulated using electricity. It is in itself.
It's a carrier wave. Electricity can be used as a carrier wave on the back of an electric light wave. Yeah, that's how they do it.
I mean, it's just a spectrum. It's on the spectrum, just like your microwave.
Electricity is not in the light spectrum. Sorry,
no, I'm talking about I'm talking about visible light. Visible light is a spectrum, is in a certain spectrum of the electromagnetic spectrum.
Well, they didn't call it that, but there's nothing magnetic about light. Okay, there's nothing.
It's a
magnetic.
Absolutely, there is. Nothing magnetic about light.
There's nothing magnetic about light. Is light magnetic?
No.
Well,
yeah, it's a duality.
Yeah.
It exists in a kind of a double state. Electricity and magnetism kind of are dualities. If you move one, you create the other, right?
A ray of light. array of light.
That's such a silly proposition. The fact that we have all these physical engineering devices that society uses today, using the exact principles that you're talking about, and you're saying it doesn't exist.
Description of a photon, okay, and I'm saying it's not electro or magnetic or a wave, and it doesn't. How we describe it has nothing to do with what you're saying.
Yes, it does, because there's engineers who make systems that run society built on these.
So they have this convention of calling it an electromagnetic wave that doesn't affect their ability to create machinery and create.
Absolutely, it does. They have to understand the principles that light uses to operate in order to create these devices.
You just have to have a model, but the truth is that a lot of these ideas are still contentious, even among.
There is absolutely, I've not heard one contention about the electromagnetic spectrum or light. The only contention I've heard is about, what the fact that you can collapse the wave function, what does that ultimately mean? As far as like the mechanics of the operation, there's nothing.
You never heard of particle wave duality?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you don't think that that's a contention?
I mean, as humans, we like to put. I'll tell you how I feel. Let me tell you how I feel. Okay.
One at a time.
Yeah, one at a time.
Can I tell you how I feel about the wave particle duality?
Lord, I don't want to know how you feel about it. I want to know what you think.
Okay, as humans, we like to put things in boxes, right? We like to put it in a nice, neat container and say it's this or it's this. Well, when you get down to something, as fundamental as the way light behaves, you're not going to be able to put it in a little specific box. It's not that it's one or the other. It's that it has properties of both.
No, it doesn't have any properties of a wave.
Then what's blue light? Blue light is like what, 760 nanometers in wavelength? Well, I mean,
it's a mathematical description.
That
doesn't make it a wave. That's just a mathematical description.
You can create that using a system and reproduce it, knowing exactly the frequency that you're going to get out of the system. You can say, I'm going to produce blue light because I'm going to ramp it up to this frequency, or light body radiation, or things like that.
Yeah. Okay. Do you understand that frequency does not refer to waves?
It's frequency is a per second basis. It's hertz per second.
Yeah, but it can be applied to it.
It could be, but I'm just saying that I think that what it is that that's how far apart the particles of the photons are.
Well, you could see that pretty easily. If you had a system set up, you would see interruptions.
Yeah, that's why they're in nanometers. They're individually spaced in nanometers. So 600 and whatever is that individually spaced nanometer of light particle.
LED crystals that they know, they know the structure of the atomic structure. They know what frequency it's going to emit. And they prime the system, and boom, they'll tell you it's going to get blue light. There's all sorts of things.
But we're arguing about whether it has the qualities of a wave, right?
And the wave pattern interference.
Yeah, but that does. I think that's just caused by absorption and re-emission patterns. So it has nothing to do with waving. It's just that one of the photons.
It's not an actual wave. It's an analogy of a wave. If you get what I mean, I'm using a wave as an analogy. I'm not going to explain what a wave is because it's too long and conjecturous.
A wave is an oscillation in a medium under tension.
Yeah,
a wave is a pattern.
Right, and that's not light. That's definitely not light.
No, it's not light. Light don't behave as a waveform or pattern.
What I'm saying is that there's nothing electric, magnetic, or waving about a photon.
No, there isn't about water either. Water's flat normally and still, and it's only acted upon by another force, usually air pressure or air density.
Excellent segue.
I agree with Nami. Light can be influenced by magnetics, but it is not.
Really?
Almost a segue there, Armin, and you've ruined it. So there was almost a flat Earth segue from Nettie.
Where are we going? Let's go back to that. I like your conversation though, Nettie. You're a smart guy.
Yeah. Good guy. But
I'd just like to reiterate that this is rather silly because, like I said, there's hundreds and hundreds of engineered devices that you use on a daily basis that relies on the principles, us understanding what this is and how it operates. And you're sitting here saying, no, they got it wrong.
Light oscillation.
That their description is wrong, not that they can't, not that the application in machinery and technology is wrong.
Sorry.
But maybe their
description was wrong. They wouldn't be able to reproduce all these results.
Okay, well, then you tell me what the electric, magnetic, and wave properties of photons that can be demonstrated are through any of these technologies. You're just saying, well, they use technologies and they say electromagnetic wave, so it's got to be an electromagnetic wave, but you don't actually have any evidence, right?
You know how they create electricity? It kind of has similar analogies.
It's a force.
I don't see what that has to do with what I'm asking you at all.
Well, you kind of broke up a little bit. It has it kind of perfectly ties in with it.
Okay, you explain.
Well, I mean, I'll say so. Anywhere in the world, they produce electricity through turbines. Whether it's no matter how you produce it, whether it's through heat, whether it's through water, at the end of the day, you always have to use something to spin a turbine, and you have these big coils of copper wire, and they have magnets that spin around the wires. The way they have it set up, it produces AC electricity. It produces alternating current electricity. So electricity and magnetism are joined at the hip. When you move one, it creates another.
You're correct. But what does that have to do with light, with photons?
Because it's a duality. If you manipulate, if you have let's just say, we'll just call it, if you're shooting a beam of light, if you create an arc of, electrical, or let's just say you create an arc of magnetism in the world, since you have moving, a magnetic field, it's going to create electricity. So then they're going to bounce off each other and they're going to pop back and forth. That's essentially what they do.
So where does light come in?
Back and forth.
Where does light come in?
The same principle. You're forcing the electrical field to behave differently so it can be channeled in a different direction with force down a wire.
Arwin,
That's what he's trying to say.
Arwin, what do you think electromagnetic radiation is?
Electromagnetic radiation? Well, that is like electricity. It is electrons.
No, that's what they call
There's
light.
a duality between electricity and magnetism. That's very obvious. But where does light come in? It doesn't.
I'll try to explain how they create electricity.
Electricity can basically cause particles to light up. Doesn't mean that electricity is light.
No, I'm just saying that if you understand that to create electricity, you have to have a magnetic field. And whenever you create electricity in a wire,
you've gone through this twice. I'm sorry. You've gone through this twice, and you've not drawn a connection between the two things. You've not drawn any connection. You just keep explaining
simple. That's how the wave exists, because they're completely opposed to each other. So at 90-degree angles, you can look at the way.
Why are you talking about electricity? We're talking about photons, the nature of the photon. Is it a particle?
Twice. I'm trying to stop him.
You don't understand how it would exist as an electromagnetic wave. I'm telling you.
Stop saying the same thing. I don't want to hear it a third time. Stop it. Shut up. Stop talking about electricity.
You don't get it?
No, you haven't drawn any connections. You've said it 3 times and I'm sick of hearing it.
I've drawn perfect connections.
You haven't drawn any connections. There is nothing coherent about anything you have said. Everybody in this room is more stupid for having listened to you not make any connections, because you are literally a dumbass, repeating the same shite over and over again.
Yeah, that's totally that proves R right there. That's where I was sneaking it in at. Thank you.
Yeah, so where is the connection between electricity and magnetism, which are both roughly a dual state of the same thing? Where does light come in?
Because light is an electromagnetic wave.
No, that's a causal explanation. Where does it come in?
I'm trying to tell you where I'm going with this explanation. That's what I'm trying to draw parallels here. Saying that if you create one, you create the other.
Yeah, I get it. You're trying to draw parallels, and we're trying to get you to draw a connection.
I just said it. If you create one, you create the other. So if you have an electromagnetic wave, the part that's electric is going to create a magnetic part, and they're going to bounce off each other because they are complete and perfect opposites in a sense.
Okay,
so
where does the light come in?
Hold on.
Where does the light come in?
Arwin. Hold on. So if I've got an engine and it creates gas, right? Does that make gas the car?
No, I'm not. I'm not saying anything about. I'm not saying that the.
Yeah, you're saying because you can create light with electricity, it is the same thing because it's a parallel. And I'm saying if you can create smoke coming out of the back of a car, does that make the smoke the car?
That's not what I'm saying at all, Nathan.
You're drawing a parallel. You're saying one can be created with the other. I saw your crappy connection, and it's rubbish. I understand why everyone else on the panel's moaning at you.
Well, I mean, it's not very complicated. I don't know why you guys are acting like it's such a super complicated idea, and you guys are breaking up a little bit. I will say that.
It's complicated. You haven't
you're not
drawn any
explaining it.
connections.
Where does the light come in? You
If
still
you
have
create one, I'm not getting to a point where I'm going to say this is where light is created. I'm just saying you can imagine light as an electromagnetic wave.
We can
No,
imagine
don't
the
want to
world
bloody
as a
imagine
ball.
it, you
Doesn't make
stupid
it a
idiot.
ball either.
Don't tell us what we can imagine.
You don't understand how it works.
Don't tell us what we don't understand. You just told us what we could imagine.
You can use your Wi-Fi. You can go use your microwave.
Oh, shut your mouth.
Go stick your head
You're
in the
the
microwave,
dumbest
then
person
you can
here at
really
the
see how
moment.
it
Shut up.
affects.
You're taking up valuable airtime. Shut up.
No, you shut up. You wanker. Can I get a couple of English insults?
Yeah, shut up, you
around?
stupid wanker.
Okay, all right. You're a wanker too.
You're a knobhead.
Knobhead wankers.
You're a strawman argument regurgitating cow.
It's not a straw man argument. I'm just trying to explain to you how an electromagnetic wave works. I'm not making a bigger point. I'm just telling you. You guys seem to have
Completely.
You're saying I don't know how it worked. I don't know how it worked. It doesn't make any sense. I'm describing it to you so it can make sense.
Check 1 2.
Hey, sir. Please save us.
What up? Hey, I just wanted to kind of come in and like the point that Josh is making an interesting point about how we're using it, and the point is, I think that you're trying to make, Nathan, is the idea that we philosophically saying where light comes from is like saying that we have the answers to life and death, and we don't, and that's where I think if modern science and even like the layman could just even. If we just give up the idea that we can explain where it came from, but we have really sound science surrounding what it does. And I think if we could just admit some of these things, it just, it breezes right over it. That's why it's a contentious point, is because none of us know, like we talked, I think, Josh, we talked about how like the mechanics in any particular field are at each other's throats over how to do and how to use what they know. And then there's the conversation of where this light emanates from, and none of us know that answer. It is like a kind of a dual thing, but just because we can manipulate it doesn't explain where it comes from. And if we can admit that, it's cool. In my opinion, forgive me.
I was just trying to make a point on like you guys were saying you don't understand how it would work. It doesn't make sense how it works, and I'm just trying to propose to you how it would work, so you can understand it.
Well, no, the thing is that you can't propose how it would work because they've got a real good agreement on how it works and how.
Well, I mean, how it does work.
Right, that's what I'm saying. But they can't explain.
You're making a connection between electricity and light being the same thing without actually making the connection. You're just suggesting that it is without actual explanation as to how it is.
You're asking about it seems that there's a miscommunication in the sense of what your inquiry is. Like, guys on the flat earth side, it's like where does it come from?
It comes from an electron on an atom. The electron on an atom changes states from a higher energy state to a lower energy state.
What came first? Hold on. What came first, the electron or the atom?
The electron or the atom. Probably the Big Bang came first.
Okay, so check it out. So I missed what I'm trying to say. Is that how can you, like, my point is this. Okay, can you answer this question? If you have 42 sheep and 12 goats on a ship, how old is the captain?
He's 47.3 years old.
Okay,
there you go. This was a great. It was a scientific study done, saying proving that the correct answer is you don't have enough information to know.
Yeah, that's right.
But most people.
Hold on, that's right. You gave an answer. You actually gave an answer, though.
I was joking.
It doesn't matter. Many a true word. Your instinct told you to give an answer. Like people who get pulled over at the side of the road by a stranger in a car, and the guy says, "Do you know the way to?" Now, if women don't know the way, chances are they'll say they don't know. But men, they've got this pride thing that tells them they've got to have the answer, and you gave one, didn't you?
We already had this conversation, Nathan, and whenever he asked me the first time, I said, there's not enough information.
Not everyone watches my show.
Well, that's a shame, isn't it? Shame you gave an answer this time.
But it was a joke. I mean, it should be obvious.
Fair enough. It is
from the information that you can't answer that question. And for you to assume that I'm actually proposing a legitimate answer is rather silly, Nathan.
Well, you are that dumb. You come across that dumb.
Melissa, you're a beef-witted plonker.
I'm a beef-witted plunker. Oh man, I
Yeah.
gotta get up to
Nummy's
date on
going
English
in.
insults, man.
That's a French Canadian one.
Didn't fair.
That's a British insult. He was asking for British.
I know. I'm joking too.
Okay.
And
You know what a plonker is? You know what a
That's
plonker
not a
is?
good British insult. Okay.
You know what a plonker is?
What's that?
You know what a plonker is?
No, what's plunker?
The
It's like a
prophylactic.
tosser, isn't it?
It's a condom.
Top 50 most beautiful British insults. Hold on. You guys have a favorite? Wanker's really common, man. I hear wanker all the time.
Yeah, there's a lot of wankers here.
Yeah.
I think you're a winking tosser.
A wanker's a pecker, right?
Nope.
Masturbator.
Oh, really? Okay. The one guy that comes on here, y'all call him the rumpus. I could have sworn that was a British insult. That meant like he was an ass, or excuse me, he was, a bottom basically.
Now, a rumpus is a disruptor.
Yeah, it means like a
rumpus
troublemaker.
Disruptor. Yeah, it sounds like some kind of, from an American, it sounds like some kind of British insult. Tosser, there you go. Tosser, wanker, slag. Daft
Yeah,
cow.
try not to swear too much.
Nathan, what's a ponce?
A ponce. I think it's a child abuser. I think.
Ugh.
No, a ponce is a trend
Man.
that walks around like, I don't know, like a weirdo.
Oh yeah, I think you're right. I think that's right.
Ponce.
A ponce is somebody that's like dressed up in like fancy schmancy clothes. A nonce is a child abuser. I got that wrong.
Yeah.
So it's like a fancy pants, what we call him.
It comes from the Brill Cream boy days, like when they used to slick their hair with Brill Cream and that, and wear the pointed winkle picker shoes and their velvet bloody purple jackets and that. That's a ponce.
I can feel that. That makes sense.
More of
A proper ponce.
Yeah,
So
more
it's
of
like,
That's
sort of like a poofter, right?
Yeah, kind of. It's like somebody who might wear a suit,
Well,
like when it's not necessary. When you're not going to a business meeting, they'd be in a sharp suit, like you say, with the Brill Cream through their hair.
Jem says a ponce is
hipsters. They call them
ponce is a
hipsters now.
pimp. Ponce is
Hipsters.
a pimp.
Yeah, they call them hipsters now.
That's
Basically, you dress up in a suit and all that with a handkerchief hanging out your pocket, nice hat, nice walking stick and all that. Yeah, they call them
Oh, that's
hipsters.
ponce.
And a
Yeah,
bow
that's
tie.
definitely a
Pouncing
ponce.
about, yeah. Pouncing
That
about.
just sounded so British.
What about a poofter? Poofter is like a ponce, right? Or does that just mean gay?
Pufters
Yeah.
are
Can we
homosexual.
get back to the flat Earth or lighter?
It's Friday, Owen. I've already decided about half an hour ago to let all this slide. I tried. I gave in after the 5th attempt. Now we're talking about
Come on, we
puffs.
can't have some fun. Give me a break.
It's Friday, man. Who cares? It's been a good week.
Oh, well.
Ranty
Hopefully it'll be a nice change of,
smashed it all into oblivion
tone.
as far as I'm concerned. So it's worth having a few minutes of frivolous
You've got
conversation.
to lighten up every now and again because
Exactly.
conversations can get serious to a point where you want to rip each other's throats out. So it's nice just to have a break and have a chit chat about something else, and then get back onto the main topic of
Should I get the guitar?
No. Maybe only because we haven't got enough time. We've got about 7 minutes.
Is it flat? Yeah. Is it a ball with a flat
Welcome
top?
to the show.
Is it a ball with a flat top? Right.
No.
Is the top of the ball a circle of ice around at the top that's been flattened off, and we flattened off most of it, by the way. And the circle of ice goes around the outside. Now, beyond that, what do you think? Like more ice or just a complete drop off into space? Because
Absolutely no idea.
I
Never
was having
been.
this really logical thought about it the other day. How do you build a skyscraper in the middle of Africa? You'd be building the skyscraper on the side of the planet. Now, how do you build a skyscraper upside down in Australia? You'd be building a skyscraper upside down. How the fuck do you do that?
Oh my God! Come on, man! Come on!
Come on, think
Nah,
about
come
it.
on,
It's not
gravitational
logical.
pull fixes everything. You know that.
Yeah.
This magic gravity that can.
They all get
let a bird fly, but it
they
won't
get their
let a
knickers
brick
in a
fly.
twist
What's
if you
that
say
about?
upside down, because it's obviously relative, as Owen pointed out with gravity in their model, but it's antipode. That's the word you're looking for.
Just flip the globe.
So if
That's
you
all you
go-
gotta do. Just flip the globe to where Australia's on the top, or South America, or Africa's on the top.
Well, you see
So
Australia's
you're
at the
always
bottom,
on the
innit?
top, right?
Well, you can flip it. What's preventing you from flipping it?
This is another one of the heliocentric contradictions when it comes to your mathematics when you're calculating things on the ground at distance. If you're always on the,
Depends on how you look at the map.
Oh, hold on, I was just about to make a
maps
point.
are
Hold on,
flattened out,
hold on,
like,
hold on,
the
hold on,
Mac
hold on.
What?
I was going to say, if you're always on the top of the ball, how is it possible that you can have a bulge between you and the thing you're observing, obscuring anything, if you are always on the top?
Because the top's flat anyway.
Because things have height.
You could if you're looking
mountain
down.
Range up there, sorry. Yeah, there's a mountain range up there. See, it might go up slightly, I don't know, a couple of thousand feet, but...
Do you see my contradiction? So, according to their model, right, you're always stood on the top of the ball. So everything from your feet in every direction is falling away from you at a rate of 8 inches per mile squared if you calculate it from your observable vantage point. Well, if everything's falling away from you at 8 inches per mile squared, how is it possible to have a bulge between you and the thing you are observing?
Because the thing you would be observing would be down. It would be
down.
Not perfectly to the side. It would be
you have
downward.
to look down, and a mountain has a height.
Yeah.
So the height is what's allowing you to see the bulge.
You'd have to get to the top of that mountain to look down to have a look at that bulge. But you won't see it really, no, because the.
So that's what we see, is it? In the photography, we see all these people looking down, do we?
Yeah, but the lens is curved in such a way that it pulls all the land up.
No, that is fractal looming.
No, it's a simple glaring contradiction. If you're on the top of the ball at all times because of gravity, it's forced to be the case that the land is always falling away from your feet. That's how a ball works.
You see, you can't really use lenses to do this because lenses are convexed. All lenses are convex. They have to be to pull in the image so that you can see it. You can't have a flat lens. You know, it's like just the way it works. You can have flat lens between a lens. You can have two concave lenses between convex lenses, but you can't have a concave lens on the outside. It has to be convexed.
I thought it interesting.
That's the way that we see things. You know, the
they have,
inside of the top is concave. We see it as, but on the outside it's convex. So everything that we see from the outside is magnified in, and everything that we see from the outside magnified in. Sorry, everything that we see from the inside makes it smaller because we have
to fit your retina, so it has to be to make the entire outside image into that small frame. It has to fit the small frame in your eye. That's why it has to be a lens.
So it can look at the back of your retina. But what your brain has a clever thing of doing is switching the image upside down. And your brain has another very clever thing that it does as well. If it can't see the whole of the image, it'll paint that part of the image in itself mentally. And you'll see it mentally and physically yourself. It actually physically paints it in where it can't see it.
The eye see things upside down, but your brain then corrects it in the translation because the eye is not directly connected to your consciousness. There's a system in between that translates it, and that also helps amplify certain aspects for your focus.
And with that, I'm going to say first and foremost, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and hopefully for sharing this live debate. And of course, a massive thank you to all of the debating panel for making this debate possible. If you've not done so already, like if you like the show, dislike if you dislike the show, and be sure to like, comment, share and subscribe. I've been Nathan Oakley. Hello, little munchkin. And I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!